So let me just take a moment here and give the floor to Catherine. If you'd take a moment and give our listeners here and our viewers a good picture of the wonderful work that AUL does.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you to Preborn, you all, and your work on the front lines of this fight for life, and for the youngest and smallest and most vulnerable among us. It is so inspiring, and I'm so grateful to all of you. Good morning to everyone who's here on this call. I'm Catherine Glenn Foster. I am President and CEO of Americans United for Life. We are the nation's original national pro-life organization, founded in 1971, 2 years before Roe v. Wade. We fight for the rights of mothers and their children, both born and preborn, across state houses and courtrooms throughout our great nation. I'm a constitutional attorney, I'm a mother, and I'm a post-abortive woman myself. And I am honored to join Dan here today to help advance the life-saving work of Preborn and to offer the results of my legal team's research over the past year into the horrific conditions at abortion centers in America. The fight for the human right to life is truly the fight of our generation, exposing the inhumanity of the abortion industry. But I'd like to take us back a few years, back to the summer of 1858, actually, at the Illinois State Republican Convention, when then future President Abraham Lincoln stood up to speak on the most pressing human rights issue of his time, the abomination of slavery. He said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other." The United States of America, we are also at a crossroads. We're at a point of divergence so significant as to rival the tumultuous period of the 1850s. While I do trust that the truth and justice of our cause is going to win our fellow Americans to solidarity in defending life, it is nonetheless our responsibility to seize our moment in history. It is time for victory. Just like the abolitionists of the 19th century, the suffragettes of the early 20th century, and the civil rights advocates of the late 20th century, our mission is to win the hearts and the minds of the American people in the name of human life. Now, law and policy victories, they will always flow downstream from establishing the truth inherent all around us of the value and dignity possessed by each and every person. Abortion, as I know firsthand, it doesn't contribute to women's happiness, and abortion isn't necessary for women to succeed. If we accept the status quo on abortion, we're raising the white flag, we're throwing in the towel. We're saying that we're giving up the fight for true equality, giving up fighting for systemic equality, for systems that support and empower women and girls, that we're just accepting injustice. You look over at California, and in the state of California, the law protects dogs, protects cats, protects other animals from subpar veterinary clinics with an array of 158 separate laws, including licensure, qualification, and training requirements for veterinarians and staff, physical clinic standards, cleanliness standards. But then you look at California's law on abortion. On the other hand, California law provides no standards whatsoever to protect women experiencing abortion from dirty and dangerous abortion businesses. Now, that's because every single one of the medical standards that protected California women have been wiped off the books by state courts and pro-abortion lawmakers. Just as an example, common sense requirements like having a system ensuring availability of staff for follow-up care or referral of patients available 24 hours, and a recovery area adequate for the number of patients recovering at any given time. It sounds so basic. It sounds like lifeboats on a ship, but these laws were struck from the books in 2014. What a searing indictment of our values that in California and many other places in America, we treat our dogs with more care and protection than we do mothers and young children. That is unacceptable. That's sad. It's heartbreaking. But that is our current reality. The abortion industry has bet everything on a strategy of total repeal of the nation's abortion laws, believing against the evidence that abortion would be safe if it were just made legal. America's women lost that bet big time when the Supreme Court struck down abortion laws in all 50 states in Roe v. Wade. The documented record of the consequences of this hubris is tragic. 1,200 abortion facility health and safety violations reported in just the last 10 years from 2008 to 2020, implicating well over 300 abortion centers in hazardous, unclean abortions, in addition to the colossal toll abortion has extracted in human lives and the physical and emotional suffering of survivors. No one is spared from the horror of a human abortion, and the data bears that out. My team's deep 50-state investigation exposes abortion businesses that have been operating without a license, that have been utilizing unlicensed, unqualified, or untrained abortionists and staff, repeatedly fined for filthy conditions, and dangerously mishandling narcotics and other drugs. As it has since the days before Roe in 1973, the abortion industry operates as if the laws regulating abortion don't exist. One of the reports that I just can't stop thinking about, it comes from Planned Parenthood in Birmingham, Alabama, from 2014. A state health violation report tells us the story of a little girl, only 14 years old, and my own daughter is turning 14 in January, so it really hit home for me. She came into this Planned Parenthood. She already had 2 living children. Planned Parenthood aborted her 3rd child while neglecting to report suspected sexual abuse to the authorities. The same little girl, she came in only 4 months later. And once again, Planned Parenthood performed another abortion with no questions asked. Once again, no suspected abuse was reported to the authorities, who were in a position to actually help this young girl, instead of repeatedly performing abortion after abortion, taking her money and sending her on her way, as Planned Parenthood had now done twice in 4 months. During this child's 2nd abortion, 7 of these 16 mandated health and legal records were missing or incomplete. Now, we don't know this little girl's full story. We don't know her circumstances. We don't even know her name. But we do know that she was a 14-year-old girl in an extremely vulnerable situation, a situation in which we have laws governing how she should be treated. Instead of alerting the authorities to possible, and common sense would dictate likely, abuse, Planned Parenthood happily cashed her check and looked the other way. And that, to me, is the abortion industry encapsulated. The truth is sobering, but by exposing the ugly underside of the abortion cartel, pro-life advocates can effectively put the lie to abortion industry claims that abortion is a routine, a safe medical procedure. We know it is anything but safe. It is through the absolutely vital work life-affirming pregnancy centers do that we provide an alternative to the degrading, inhumane, unacceptable status quo of the abortion business. Building real connections with those people in our lives is one of the most critical things we can do for each other, especially when we may be hurting or struggling. For families, for women in turmoil in the face of an unplanned pregnancy, an ear to listen, a sounding board, a helping hand, maybe even a shoulder to cry on. These are imperative to helping them think through their options and ultimately make that choice for life. Inspiring women to encourage others. During the moments nearly 20 years ago now, when I faced an unplanned pregnancy, the thing that I needed most was the encouragement of others. Engaging in motherhood, it's always a challenge, let's be honest. But when you feel like you have no support, it can seem impossible. Encouragement can mean the difference between life and death. Being a positive force in the life of a friend facing an unexpected hardship, that can be the light in the darkness that they need to make the right choice. The media culture that we are saturated with, it all too often gives us all the wrong messages. We see 2 competing truths in the news media. There's the Werther effect and the Papageno effect. Now, we named after the Goethe oeuvre, the Sorrows of Young Werther. It postulates that the more people see suicide in the news, the more people will choose to make that terrible choice. And we saw that back in his own day, after he published that book. We saw that that spread. That's how it was named. But the Papageno effect, in contrast, it states that the more people see alternatives to suicide in the media, and especially the more people see stories of people who may have had suicidal ideation, but then chose life, the more people will likewise choose an alternative. The same goes for abortion. The more we can put forward stories of brave women facing an unexpected pregnancy, who encounter friends who listen, who encourage, who support, the more women who will choose to save their child. From Juno to Gilmore Girls to life-affirming posts on Facebook and Instagram, sharing an honest culture of life that acknowledges the challenges, but revels in the joy and shows women that there is a path towards motherhood that is inclusive of their hopes and dreams. As a post-abortive woman myself, I come to this cause with no judgment, only love. I understand the fear. I understand the finality. I've been in their shoes. But together, we can work to end abortion in America. I fight for the children, but I really do also identify with the mothers. For the precious children, for our communities. We must all work together to pursue restorative justice in our great nation as America turns away from and heals from abortion. We can do it together. Thank you, Dan.